Hi, it's Colin Coward. I started The Volume to bring you some of the most authentic voices in sports. While you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks.
From a pure playing standpoint, all you ever want in a high pick is to get a franchise quarterback. And obviously they come in nowadays in all shapes and sizes, right? From Kyler Murray to Justin Herbert. But I would say, for the most part, they tend to be bigger guys, right? Even Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, they are much, much bigger than Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson are somewhat outliers. But Big Ben is also an outlier. Where do you find humans that are 6'6", 260, 270 pounds, who in his younger days could run with a massive arm and was just a winner? Like, quarterback wins and losses is not necessarily a quarterback stat, but it definitely is reflective of how a quarterback, especially when he plays and is the starter for a long time, how good the guy is. Now, Roethlisberger benefited from going to one of the most stable organizations in all of American business, whether it's sports, whether it's retail, whether it's car, you name it. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a model franchise for this country. But when Roethlisberger went there, let's face it, he helped take them to another level. On Big Ben's watch, when he's been the starter since 2004, he's 163, 80-1. He has 13 playoff victories. Now, he's lost 9 playoff games, but he's over 500 in the playoffs. And I think we can all agree, if you watch Roethlisberger, what he is now, and listen, I don't judge you on your lowest moment. And as a player, a lot of times your lowest moment, especially a great player, is at the end of your career. You're a shell of yourself. It's the unique part about playing professional athletics. Most of us, right? I just turned 37. Hopefully my prime is in like 20 fucking years. I'm a long way away from it. I can do this, what I do, for a long period of time. Anyone listening in any form of business that you're in, you should get better with age. Where a lot of athletes, in Roethlisberger's day, you kind of peaked at like late 20s, early 30s. Now, with health, and obviously Roethlisberger, he's like some cheeseburgers and some beer. But he played till 39. Now, the last several years have been rough. But I'll never forget what I witnessed for him in the peak of his powers for like a 10-year period. I just don't know if we're going to see another guy quite like that. And plus his unique story coming from a smaller school, a MAC school, Miami of Ohio, but getting drafted that high, being that dominant of a player, and being a guy, I always judge you on this. Like, I'm not the biggest Cam Newton fan, but I always feared him in big games because of his elite attributes and elite talent. And Roethlisberger was on a completely different level, but I don't care. And obviously the Patriots owned him in his career in the playoffs. But there wasn't many times when I watched him play in a big game, regular season, or the playoffs, where you didn't have faith that guy was going to make a play. And just because his style, he could kill you from the pocket, he could scramble, and he could break tackles. He was the size of a defensive lineman. We're seeing, you saw C.J. Stroud. You saw Bryce Young. The Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, like the quarterbacks that are coming into the sport. Hell, Caleb Williams, who's now in the transfer portal, he's like 6'1". A lot more quarterbacks now tend to be kind of smaller, athletic guys. Roethlisberger was basically built like a defensive tackle who could sling it, who was accurate, and who played in the toughest division in the league. Think about him and the Ravens. I mean, that's one, for my generation, probably the most consistent rivalry of the last 20 years. And when I worked in the NFL, it was like in the peak of its powers. 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. They were both good. They were both Super Bowl contenders. And they had what felt like Mike Tyson fighting Mike Tyson. And they had a chance every time because they had that guy. And when I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, I didn't grow up on Mean Joe Green. I didn't grow up on Terry Bradshaw. Right? I didn't grow up, I guess I did kind of on like Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green and some of those guys, but I'll remember Roethlisberger. When I close my eyes and I say the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'll think Big Ben. And he had an incredible career. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's, I think the best way you can describe any player is this guy's a winner. And that's what Roethlisberger was. Now, if you want to remember him for the last several years, you're not going to look at him the same. And I actually think it's pretty impressive what the Steelers have been able to do. For the last several years, he's been a shell of himself. He got injured the one year, and it speaks to the organization, the culture. Whoever gets to go there next as a rookie quarterback, who's ever drafted there in the next couple years, the day they're drafted, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm not religious, should head right to church and get down on their knees and say some thank yous to the man upstairs. Because that place makes careers. The stability, the just organizational ethos and mindset. Like, there is just a standard. The standard is the standard. You know, it's cheesy. They say it like Alabama. But it's true at Pittsburgh. And even this year, where you watch them, their offensive line's not very good. Roethlisberger at this point in time is not very good. And they're still going to be at worst 500. Look at the Browns, who had an infinitely better roster coming into the season and throughout the majority of the season. Yet they're going to finish under 500. Now, part of that is the quarterback they drafted number 1 overall just is a guy. You know, stand him up right next to Roethlisberger. It'd be like standing Shaq next to Steph Curry. That's what it would look like. Now, like I said, you don't need to be huge to play quarterback, but it helps. You know, I'd rather have a 6'3", 6'4" guy than a 5'11" guy. You know, I would say, listen, Russell Wilson's the best short guy we've ever seen, and he ain't Rodgers, he ain't Brady. Hell, he's not even Roethlisberger, and he's awesome. He's one of my favorite players ever. But if you told me I'd get both guys at 22 years old, I'd take Roethlisberger. I would take Roethlisberger. I mean, really, he kind of gets, I would say, somewhat overlooked in his generation just because he played against Brady and Manning and then Rodgers. Like, those were the headliners in his division, in his era. Brady, best quarterback of all time. Rodgers and Manning, top 5 quarterbacks of all time. I mean, he just didn't play with Marino and Elway in Montana. Like, that's the group right there. Roethlisberger played with them all, and he belonged. And it was a joy to watch as a football fan. And it just shows you, like, there's something that the Steelers have that the Browns don't. And, you know, they clearly, I think they have a smart general manager. I think they have a really good coach. But they have a quarterback situation that's a major question mark. And I don't know how you fix that. And like I said, you just kind of ride it out. You know, there's not many this isn't college football. There's not a transfer portal, because I think if there was, they would go to the transfer portal and they'd find a quarterback. And they go, Baker, you know, I think we recommend you check out the transfer portal. See if there's anything in there for you. But that's not possible. They bring him back, and hopefully they can keep him healthy and, you know, compete for a wild card spot. But, you know, the Steelers are going to need a quarterback. We know Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are in a completely different universe than Baker. And you just hope your coach and your infrastructure and your roster is good enough, and you can either, you know, keep Baker healthy or try to improve that position. Because, you know, it shows you it's very, very difficult to make the playoffs. It really is. It's very, very difficult, I would say, in any walk of life, to consistently win. Right? It's easy to be a one-hit wonder in anything you do. It's hard to year in, year out consistently be in the mix. That's why what Belichick and Brady have done will never be replicated. It just won't. You know, hell, you're seeing it, you know, the 3rd straight year of trying to make the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. Like, it's hard. And they're awesome. I mean, they got Mahomes and Andy. It's a mother. It's tough. This game is really, really hard. Your opponents, even the shitty ones, make a lot of money, drive nice cars, and live in big homes as well. And their coaches stay up all night and game plan all week. So it just, the game, the margin for error is very, very small. And when we think, the thing with football, unlike basketball, I mean, it happens in other sports and baseball, but when I thought the Browns were going to be like a lock 12-win team. Part of it's some COVID weirdness, but a huge part of it is Baker was kind of a train wreck this season. And I'm not Coward, some huge Baker hater, but you have to acknowledge his physical skill set is just not like the top guys. You know, even if you're a Browns fan, if you could pick, you know, you had your pick of the litter, even if you didn't have a pick of the top 10 of the litter, of the next 10, I don't know if he's going to be one of your picks. There'd be a lot of quarterbacks in the league that you'd want on your squad before him. And anytime that is an issue, you got a major problem on your hand. I mean, you just do. You can't be good at football in 2021, 2022, moving forward with a question mark at quarterback, right? You can't run with a broken foot. You know, you can't write without a pen or pencil. Like, it's just a basic, you know, premise right now of the sport. To win at football, you need a good quarterback. You probably need a borderline Pro Bowler every single year. And if you're going to win big, you just need an all-star, probably a future Hall of Famer. If you don't have one, you probably should spend every single minute of your existence, if you work in the business, trying to find one. Thanks for watching 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description, and make sure you subscribe right now to the Volumes YouTube channel.